No sword is the perfect weapon, Dihada. It is only an extension of the man who wields it. Dakkon, from the comic Dakkon Blackblade. What does it mean to leave a legacy? The early days of Magic the Gathering's lore was very different from how it's done now. There was very little in terms of interconnected story. We didn't follow a single group of planeswalkers around across a multi-year saga. Instead, in the very early days, whenever a new set was released, we would learn about new characters, bit by bit, or only in passing. Many of these characters left lasting imprints on the story of Magic the Gathering. Some, like Urza, the Phyrexians, and the Elder Dragons, would leave imprints so strong that they still affect the story of the game we play now, over 20 years later. Sometimes, the impact is momentous. Urza's triggering of the Silex Blast, after all, affected dozens of sets worth of story, spanning several years in real time. Other times, however, the impact is small, but very important, culminating in a single moment where a valiant hero assails an ancient, evil dragon. This single moment, the turning of hope into despair, is the legacy of one of Magic the Gathering's earliest legendary creatures. This is the legacy of Dakkon Blackblade. Dakkon's story begins as a blacksmith from Karandor on Dominaria. One day, he was visited by the planeswalker Gaedron Dihada, who was aware of his own dormant planeswalker spark. She would offer to make him a planeswalker like herself if he could forge for her the most powerful sword to ever exist. To aid him in this task, Gaedron gifted him the knowledge necessary to make a blade that stole the very life force away from its victims. Over the next 10 years, Dakkon would forge this accursed weapon, toiling without rest. Legend holds that he would heat the blade daily, and then cool it in the blood of a freshly murdered slave. He would stride into one combat after another, slaughtering foes like a savage, growing stronger with each kill. His name and reputation would spread far and wide, and throughout the land, he was referred to in hushed whispers as Dakkon of the Black Blade. Having heard the stories, Gaedron Dihada would return to Dakkon to fulfill her end of the bargain. She took the Blackblade from Dakkon and in turn activated his latent spark, causing him to become one of the most powerful entities on Dominaria, a planeswalker. Immediately after his ascension, however, Gaedron turned the Blackblade against its creator. She stabbed the sword into Dakkon's shadow and absorbed his soul before fleeing. Dakkon, confused, would wander the plains, not understanding why Gaedron would make him into a planeswalker, only to have him as an enemy. Much later, Dakkon would be called back to Dominaria by a nameless youth from the ruined town of Karth. The young man had been imprisoned by Dihada, and had come into possession of the Amulet of Tfue, which allowed him to summon and bind Dakkon to him. Although he was initially furious at being bound to Dominaria, Dakkon would have a change of heart when he learned that he and the boy shared a common enemy. He would battle against Dihada's minion, Solkanar, to whom she gifted the Blackblade. Dakkon would slay the Swamp King, which caused Gaedron to jump to the next phase of her plan, summoning 2 Elder Dragons. Gaedron called forth Chromium Ruel and Piru, who proved to be far more powerful than Dakkon. And though he was able to banish Chromium away, Piru remained as a dangerous threat. In the midst of their battle, the boy, son of Karth, was able to steal away the Blackblade and return it to Dakkon, who used it to slay his Elder Dragon foe. While this was a momentous feat, it was as Gaedrone anticipated. The battle between the Elder Dragons and Dakkon was all a part of her scheme to gain more power, and she began to absorb the life essence of the slain Piru. The power proved too much, however, and her form would twist as a result. Before she fled once more, Dihada placed her seal upon Dakkon, warning him that she would call upon him to fight her battles in the future. Dakkon would continue to travel with the boy, now named Karth the Lion, but much of his later life is not well recorded, and his story would pass into legend. Untold thousands of years later, the Blackblade, reforged anew, would come into the possession of Dominaria's cabal. The elder demon Belzenlok would claim it as his own creation, and declare that he, not Dakkon, was the one who used it to slay Piru. Upon hearing of how the sword had killed an elder dragon in Dominaria's ancient past, Gideon Jorah of the Gatewatch would claim it from the demon's vault. The Gatewatch was at a loss for how to defeat Nicol Bolas, who had vile plans in motion for the city plain of Ravnica, but they believed the Blackblade may be the one weapon in the multiverse that could end the dragon's reign of terror. Unbeknownst to them, Nicol Bolas had already, long ago, made magical modifications to the Blackblade, ensuring that it could never again harm an elder dragon. During the final charge of the War of the Spark, Gideon Jorah made a daring assault against Bolas using the sword, only to find it shatter, worthless, against the dragon's hide. Ultimately, while the Blackblade was a powerful weapon, one with a story nearly as old as that of magic itself, even it was of no aid against Nicol Bolas. Dakkon Blackblade was featured on a card in the Legends expansion, and later reprinted in Chronicles. His weapon, the Blackblade itself, would be printed much later in the set Dominaria. Both cards care about the number of lands you control, which is odd considering in the lore Dakkon gets stronger with each enemy he's slain. Over the last few years, Wizards of the Coast has made a habit of including new versions of old legendary creatures in the Commander precons. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll see a version of Dakkon that cares more about each creature in the graveyard. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like. If you subscribe and hit the little bell notification, you'll be alerted to new lore videos I upload on my channel. If there's a piece of Magic the Gathering lore you're unfamiliar with, or would just like to hear me talk about, let me know in the comments section below. Thank you, and have a good day.